Good evening, everyone, or good morning, depending on where you're at. I wish I could have saved this video for October, but due to recent news, I had to expedite the filming of this video. Co-creator of Ghost Rider, Gary Friedrich, has died. On August 30th, 2018. He was born August 21st of 1943. He died at the age of 75. He died due to complications of Parkinson's. He is survived by his wife and daughter. My condolences to their family. I really wish I could have met him. I'm gonna be real for a moment. His co-creation of Ghost Rider has played a very important part in my life. This right here. This was the first comic book I ever got. It was early 90s. A woman in our neighborhood, she worked for a magazine distribution, and she was giving away comic books for Halloween to trick-or-treaters and that. And this was one of the books that she had, and this is the issue that I got. This is the actual issue that I got when I was a kid. I preserved it as best as I could. I really cared for this book. It was the first comic book. I mean, I treasured this thing. Absolutely treasured this thing, and the story is incredible. As a kid, I never quite understood what was going on in the book, and there's a reason why, and that's because I had a learning disability. It took me a lot longer to learn how to read than it did other kids, and I was a huge Ghost Rider fan. I really wanted to know what was happening in these books, and there was an issue of Ghost Rider that I had. I believe it was issue 96 from the Danny Ketch run. No, I'm sorry, not 96. I think it was issue 46 of the Danny Ketch run, and it was the first book I ever learned how to read. I was unassisted. I always had to read assisted for years and years. I think it was I was about 7 or 8 when I learned how to read on my own. I sat down with the book and I would just go over it over and over and over, and eventually I read it from cover to cover, and from that moment on, I went from the bottom of my class to one of the top. And then as I progressed through school, I went from reading 1 grade higher to 2 grades higher, and then by the time I hit 7th grade, I was reading at a 12th grade level. And I owe a lot to Gary and his participation in the creation of Ghost Rider that really helped me grow as a human being. And this is a very hard loss for me. His creation meant a lot. So Gary Friedrich, like I said, he was the co-creator of Ghost Rider. He co-created it with Roy Thomas, another writer, and Mike Ploog, the artist. The Ghost Rider first appeared in Marvel Spotlight, issue number 5 in August 1972. Again, we see that August comes up with him a lot. And so this is the iconic cover that had appeared. I would love to show you, but it has my name on it, my personal name on it. But my wife got this book signed by Tony Isabella, who is a featured writer in this book. Funny thing about that one. So some people, I don't know if you've ever heard the story, but it was one of the reasons why Jim Shooter, I believe it was Jim Shooter, and Tony Isabella never got along was the fact that Tony Isabella wanted to introduce Jesus as a character in the Ghost Rider story, because to him it made sense. So you have Satan. Well, why not Jesus? Jim Shooter shot him down and turned the character who was known as the Friend into a demon, and that aggravated Tony Isabella enough that I'm pretty sure that was the reason why he left Marvel, because he could not work with Jim Shooter. He couldn't stand him for that reason. So it seemed very hypocritical for Tony Isabella, but as the years gone on, Johnny Blaze, they went through different cycles of storylines with him. He started off as kind of like a Jekyll and Hyde situation, where he didn't want to transform and he would fight it and all that, and he would go from being a solo character, lone wolf, just wandering the countrysides in a very Western style adventure, into he eventually became a Hollywood stuntman, and would work on Hollywood movies and TV shows and stuff like that. And that eventually came crashing down when Dr. Druid came and mistaken Johnny for a demon, destroying his life in the process, and then causing Johnny to reset back into a solo character again. A lone wolf kind of wandering man. He eventually, by the end, he rejoins a circus and deals with a lot of different things, like a madman who was wanting to fuse humans and technology, and wanted to turn Johnny Blaze into like a centaur with attached to a motorcycle. And it was some really weird stories. There's a lot of weird stories in there, particularly like one where he Ghost Rider fights a shark. Really weird, lame characters like Water Wizard tries to fight him. Although there is later a good issue with him where he ends up controlling a petroleum field and to fight Ghost Rider, and Ghost Rider's igniting things all around. And that one was a cool story, but the rest are all really terrible. At least with Water Wizard. But there's there are good stories in there, though. There's some really good ones. But the origins of Ghost Rider, let's go with that too. So Johnny Blaze was a mechanic who loved to do stunts too in a circus. Now Roxanne and her mom didn't want Johnny to do stunts. They wanted him just to stay a mechanic and just kind of help out around the circus. Crash wanted him to take up the mantle. He wanted a partner in the stunt show, and would always call Johnny a coward for backing away because he valued Roxanne. He loved Roxanne. And eventually Crash gets diagnosed with cancer. So Johnny, after learning some spells of the black arts, he summons Satan and makes a deal with him. Satan relieves Crash of his cancer, but he then dies in an accident. When Satan comes to collect, Roxanne stops the transmission from happening, and so Johnny gets cursed with the spirit of Zarathos, and he's cursed to go out and punish the wicked. Ghost Rider he also starts off as a very destructive spirit, but eventually he zeroes down and he becomes a little less collateral damage as time goes on, but he often gains a lot of control over Johnny. Some of his powers, he controls Hellfire. Johnny Blaze was able to turn Hellfire into a motorcycle, or the Ghost Rider was able to turn Hellfire into a motorcycle, and so he had a flaming hell cycle. He could shoot fireballs from his hands and fire beams and all sorts of stuff, and control fire. He was immune to fire, and and he had incredible strength and agility on superhuman levels. Later on, after Johnny Blaze would be separated from Ghost Rider at the end of his run, that would happen from 1972 to 1983, Johnny would be seen traveling the countrysides and stuff as he appears in an issue of Champions. He later becomes a hunter of the new Ghost Rider, who would later we would know as Danny Ketch. And during that iteration, that's when we get introduced to the team of the Midnight Suns. Now at this point, Johnny Blaze, he's got the long hair, trench coat. His shotgun ends up getting imbued with Hellfire, which that shotgun is one of the only things that can hurt Ghost Rider. It can actually kill him if he's continually hit. Danny Ketch, on the other hand, now he gets all sorts of really cool stuff. Now he has the Pendant Stare. He has Hellfire Control. He has Hell Chains. Now the Hell Chains are cool because they work almost like Spider-Man's webbing, where he can launch them and it goes on forever. He can break them apart and they'll eventually reshape. But when he breaks them apart, they become like shurikens. They like flashets is what they call them. But he also has the Mystic Cycle. Not like a Hellfire cycle, but Mystic Cycle. It's actually magic. Has a mystical symbol. He can just slap it and he becomes Ghost Rider, and it's really cool. I do like Danny Ketch. That was the Ghost Rider that I actually traditionally got introduced to. As obviously with my first issue, you can see. I mean, I knew who Johnny Blaze was, but Danny Ketch was the Ghost Rider at the time. But so. And then there's been other Ghost Riders after him. There was Alejandra, who appears in the Fear Itself run and a little bit around there. There was also Robbie Reyes, who's the Marvel Now version of Ghost Rider. There's been a 2099 Ghost Rider who almost I should say Robbie Reyes was kind of modeled a little bit after, because the 2099 had Metallic Skull and everything. And I think in most recent issues, Frank Castle has become the Cosmic Ghost Rider. I haven't read that yet, but I've heard okay things. I've heard some good things. I mean, there's been some positive reviews and there's been negative reviews, but I think of it. Sorry, I had to write my notes here. So, so Ghost Rider. Now Johnny Blaze has also appeared on different teams too, such as the Thunderbolts. This was the Thunderbolt Ross team that featured the Punisher, and it featured Elektra, Deadpool. It's a pretty solid run. I would recommend it. There was also the Midnight Suns, as I said. That was with Danny Ketch and Johnny Blaze. Danny Ketch has also appeared in the Secret Defenders. He's also appeared in the Johnny Blaze has also appeared in the Champions. He was a fairly regular character in there. He was weird in that book. I managed to read the first 12 issues of that one, and he's written very odd in that Ghost Rider seems really chummy a lot of the time, and it's really weird. Yeah, I mean, give it a shot. Give it a shot. If you ever get the chance to get like a free sample or a cheap sample of Marvel Unlimited, they've got a lot of that run on there. Or you can find it. You can find Champions in the Essential format. But the Essential, I recommend getting the Ghost Rider Essentials. You can find them on Amazon as of right now. The cheapest one is $4. It's like $4.99. The most expensive one on there was about $26. Across the board. Now they do have some some people charging $200 something, but you don't have to pay attention to them. But I do recommend these. I do recommend them. There was also a later run. I believe it was Jason Aaron Daniel Way. Yeah, Daniel Way. There's the Daniel Way run. This happens about late 2000s, right around there. This features, quite the cool combat situation between Hulk and Ghost Rider during World War Hulk. Now that was a cool battle. One of the pivotal moments is when Doctor Strange is talking about Ghost Rider, and he says, Ghost Rider has the power. He's the only being on Earth who really has the power, because he's the wrath of God, to shut Hulk down if he finds Hulk guilty for crimes presented, and Ghost Rider found him innocent, so Ghost Rider just took off. I mean, after just having trains thrown at him, and they're fighting, making craters in New York. It was a sweet battle. I recommend it. Other media forms so far are also, he appeared in a video game. Now, this was based on the movie. That's really cool. This is actually a really cool God of War clone game. I recommend this one if you get the chance, if you don't have it already. It's on the PS2 and PSP. It's a fun game. I enjoyed it. You can eventually unlock Blade as you play through the game. You can unlock him when you beat it on a certain mode. But he's got really cool powers. And then, of course, we can't talk about Ghost Rider without talking about the movies. Love them or hate them, they exist. Let's put it that way. Love them or hate them, they exist. Now, I enjoyed them when I saw them in the theater. I really did. Spirit of Vengeance was a wild ride. I couldn't say that I thought it was a good movie. I just thought it was fun. Like, it was a fun, wild ride. They had all sorts of crazy camera angles and a bunch of stuff. The tattooed monk part, I didn't like that part, but it eventually got it. Overall it was okay. It was a little boring towards the end, because it's like I hate superhero movies where the superhero doesn't really have people to who can actually match him blow for blow. But I will say that movie, I loved the fact that they made his leather jacket pop and bubble. I thought that was really cool. And when he takes over, what was it? Was it an auger? It was that giant saw, and it's on fire. That was really cool. That was pretty boss. But this movie was pretty fun. This was a fun movie, and there were some goofy parts, of course. I think there was, the obvious rubber muscle suit when he's got his shirt off. You could see that a mile away. It was just so obvious. Especially in theater on the big screen, it looked so goofy. But actually, that was a movie where people got introduced to Rebel Wilson, surprisingly. She was the victim that he saves in the alleyway, and he does the pen and stare against the mugger. Some of the scenes that I remember my friends and we were going crazy for was when he's going up against the cops and he's riding his motorcycle up the side of the building. I'm sorry, I think he was going down the side of the building. Yeah, because he just got done whipping the helicopter around, so he goes down the side of the building. That was so cool. I thought that was so cool, and then he's riding his bike over the water, flipping everybody off, and it was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. There's a lot of things fun about Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider has also appeared as a playable character in Marvel Ultimate Alliance. I have that in hundreds of forms. I have that Xbox. You can get it on PlayStation 2, Xbox 360, PS3, PS4 no, I'm sorry. Actually, you can't get those digitally anymore. The HD ones, they forgot it got taken off all the markets. So hopefully you can find a hard copy on the 360 or PS3 or PS2. And I believe it was on Xbox. Yeah, you can find it on Xbox too. You can find a gold edition on Xbox. Or hopefully that you bought it in the special edition on for the 360 or for the Xbox One or the PS4 or whatever else. So hopefully you got that. But I just I really just want to take a moment real quick, that it's sometimes you never think about these kinds of things, about people who really had an influence on your life. And for most people, the people who've had an influence, I mean, they've already, most times they're dead and gone. It could be someone like Harriet Tubman and stuff like that. But sometimes there's little things like this that it really makes you think, and it makes you really appreciate people, and it really makes you appreciate the comic book industry. And I wish creators knew this. I wish the modern day creators knew this, about how important this medium really is, and that you can't call people Nazis. You can't abuse people, because this could be what makes people better as a person. And like me, I mean, it could be comic books as how somebody learns how to read. It could be how someone from a Spanish-speaking country or a foreign-speaking country, Chinese or whatever, American comic books could be how they learn to read English. Or even comic books written in their own, their own dialect or whatever. That could be another thing too. I mean, I'm sure that happens over in Japan with manga. But I just wish people really understood how important this medium is, and just how important. I mean, even just having the skill to read. I couldn't imagine my life not knowing how to read, not knowing actually how to read. Without struggling, and knowing how to read without having all these other problems. And it's such a wonderful skill to have, and I know it seems so rudimentary to a lot of people because they learn so early, but for someone like me, it was a struggle. It was an uphill battle, and for a lot of young kids, they don't like that fight, they don't like that struggle, and so they just give up. And it's an epidemic in the inner cities in particular. So I wish that there's a way that we can reach them, especially in the comics geek community. I wish there's a way we could outreach these, to a lot of these kids. But I mean, my life was changed forever by Gary Friedrich and Roy Thomas. But so I just just take that moment and just convey that to everybody. So God bless everybody, and I'll see you on the next time.